The title of the book is called Coming Home from Camp. And thanks to Jeannie, the book is published. I want to read the first section. There are three sections. My mother speaks. The second section, my father speaks. And the third section is my words. But I want to read my mother's words. It's called Her Words to No One, 1946. So this is just after we've come back from the internment camp. It seems like the same thing all over again, but worse. One room, 3 of us in one bed, a hot plate, sink, no refrigerator. The milk spoils on the windowsill. The bathroom's public. I scour the tub twice and no job. Daddy can't find a job. He's tried. The 25 they gave us as we left the gates, not enough for rent, food or tools. I've tried the PTA. The teachers try to be conversational. The other parents smile and look away. The farmers in Idaho were shocked that we spoke English just like them. They thought we'd be killers, spies who spoke strange words and bowed a lot. We fixed our smiles at them when they asked, why have they sent you here? Heck, we had just as much right to be happy. I tried to make the barrack a home and ignore the racket the coyotes made at night. You should have heard them and the thunder. In this hotel, I look out the window and see only a brick wall 4 feet away. No sky. I guess camp wasn't so bad. At least we had a yard. Even if the fence was there, it was there to keep us in. The menfolk learned to make tables and chairs and toys, like Mickey Mouse and Pluto. I learned to embroider flowers and birds on a branch. Here, there's the whine of cars and howls from trains grinding into the station night after night. There's no reason to say things will get better. Daddy's got to try harder, but he won't or can't. I never knew this side of him. After a while, you realize that nothing changes. You don't say, keep trying. You know that nothing changes. It just repeats, and then you stop. You don't know when it happens, but it does. I never knew how angry my mother was about camp until after my father died, and I was sitting talking to her, and you know, she said those words, heck, we had just as much right as them. And it made me realize that, you know, there was this anger that she'd been carrying with her all of her life. About 10 years ago, I had some release time from work, and Amy and I took a pilgrimage to the 7 camps west of the Rockies, and we stopped by Minidoka. But before we did, we stopped at the Jerome County Museum. And there I talked to a fellow named Dale Hopper, who, interestingly enough, sounds like he could have been the person who, among the people who met my mother when they got off the train. And so I try to recapture his voice in this. So this is now 2005. And he's in the museum, he's in his 80s, and he says, they huddled together like cattle on their way to market, just off the train when we come up. Heard they'd be here yesterday, but they came today, shorter than I expected. I went up to one little one and said, I'm Don, I'll carry your bag. And the little lady looked up at me and said, I carried it from Seattle, I can carry it the rest of the way. She spoke English, surprised me sure enough. Why'd they send you folks here? I asked. Thought you'd be speaking some foreign lingo I couldn't understand. Of course we speak English, she said, a little lemon in her voice. I was born here just like you on a farm, under storm clouds just like those 30 years ago. I thought about that. Here, I said, I'll take that bag and you carry your child. Ain't the whole world gone crazy against you folks? Thought they'd be a danger and scary. Not so. It's a crime. It was. Still is when I think about it. That's why I sit here in this here museum, old enough to be an exhibit myself. There's the high school annual, 1943. See these photos? Here's the baseball team we played against. Didn't matter who won. They played like their lives depended on it. Look here. Is this you in the front row between your parents? I was just a young kid, 19. Your mother, she's still alive? By the way, the front of the book has that picture with my father, my mother, and me in the center, and the front row. A little poem called Earthquake Country. This poem began when I was born and continued the next year when you were born and found a country full of earthquakes shaking down for almost 40 years. Tule Lake, ice, dust, a range of mountains, barbed wire, Minidoka, kept us apart. In Tule, neighbors pointed their fingers. Inu, Inu. Knives flashed west from Minidoka. A far fire hit the horizon. After the war, they shipped us back like Boy Scouts from camp, assuming the doors of our houses stood swinging open, that lettuce and beans still filled the fields, that customers stood waiting for our stores to open. That long summer at camp became a long winter full of 100 faults. Your father raised apples, deer, chicken, and weeds. By the way, he did that on Vashon. For other men, until he died from what the war had shaken loose. My father cut grass on his knees for 15 years, waiting for the world to shake a miracle, 20 years long, full of dying chickens. When your father died, your mother disappeared. One boyfriend after another tumbled through your life and faded like childhood down a well. We will be here, you said, after all this is gone, like two sparrows in a tree waiting for dawn. You survived your marriage the way you survived your father's death. My marriage began in a newlywed world of basement apartment dwellers who owned their own world, but not the floors above, who are flooded with dripping toilets. I'm sorry, I got this paper in the wrong place. Pot roast being dammed back to dust, and screaming one day, a platter flew through their window, grew wings, and wafted down in pieces. Once, I was trapped in a second-story wood-framed flat halfway to the bath, stretched taut as a garter between door and floor, caught between necessities of flesh and gravity, stretched or broken or snapping together. I straightened on loose legs in a bouncing, bed-braced adolescent world of shaky geometry and learned too late the amplitude of shock can flatten me. I'm alone now the way you were alone. Divorce islands me from my children. Your marriage is a continent between us. Seattle fog and multiple sclerosis can split us down the middle, but we survived them all, not knowing where the next quake will be. In this country, there are no chairs to crawl under, no doorways to brace our lives. No use heading for a bamboo grove where none exists, or hitting the dirt in the open field, or trying to hold the ground together. We keep our balance, feeling for the wave. We ride it out, our toes hanging over the shifting plates of earth. When we came back, I attended Beta Gatser, the grade school on 12th Avenue, right by the bridge that goes over Dearborn Street. And I probably had my first experience of, as a young child, of not being able to communicate very well and finding someone who wasn't very helpful in that. Beta Gatser, the first grade, 1945. The word obenjo in here means bathroom. You may be able to figure that out. And the name in here is fictional. Miss Riley stands above me, fading fast beneath the porcelain light that frames her face. Her finger raised to God declares each word, each careful pencil mark must fill the void between the faded lines. She measures us the way she measures words like brother, house, like sister, sky, and dog. The way she measured Stanley by standing him against the chalkboard. The words are always only hers. She draws the list and keeps the rules. The sky is bruised but never green. A house can be magenta. A sister pink but never yellow. She matches objects to their hues. We learn her world, but she is never part of ours. She would never walk down alleys, never visit one-room homes too poor to invite a guest, or running water, or stove, or ice. She hogs us in the class. No boy dares laugh or talk. An easel slants its errant legs as if to trip the unaware. We tiptoe past it. 3 long snows, a gift from Franklin D., has taught us how, without apology, to live behind barbed wire and journey home. We learned to quiet trembling mouths and hands. Words contain our thought. They tell just who we really are, or camouflage the fool, the quiet stranger who lies behind the smile. One day I whisper, Benjo, Benjo. I try to tell her what I mean. What did you say? Her question rocks the room and laughter sails on wings about my ears. She checks her list. No Benjo there. Oh, Benjo, I can't lose control. Frustration pulls a cadmium stain across the floor. Miss Riley turns, her silence a naked finger. Enemy. I've mixed American and Japanese. She rakes her memory. Does she hear the dying cries of boys who toppled easels, erased the sky, then grew to manhood on the way to war? My hands raised to heaven. I'm here. I'm here. The world has changed, and yet it seems like it's always the same. When the Japanese were sent to the internment camps, and we came back, we hoped that would never happen again. And you know, the world keeps changing, and then it seems to be the same again. And I remember in the 80s and the 90s, there were movements to try to put the Arabs and Muslims into camps. And the irony, of course, was that one of the people who was promoting a bill was S.I. Hayakawa, who was himself Japanese American, but actually really he was born in Eastern Canada. So I can say, well, he was Canadian. And those of us who've been in the camp were just really shocked. But the world has changed. Where I work at Highline College, when I first started, there were 2 Japanese students at the junior high school where I first taught, and one boy who may have been Native American, and everybody else was regular American. South King County. And it stayed pretty much that way as I went to the college. And then I noticed that things were changing after Vietnam. We had an influx of a lot of Vietnamese students. And about that time, our friend Bruce Lee, Amy used to go to, well, she used to date, and we used to run around a lot together, and he had died. You remember back in 76, was it 74? No, 73, because he was 33. And the poet with whom I had worked, with whom I was a student, had passed away about 10 years before. And I wanted to write a poem that was an elegy. And as I wrote this poem, I realized when I got to the end of it, it was really talking about how the world was changing. And so the end of the poem, it really, to me, is about recognizing that this world that I had grown up in, to tell you the truth, when I went to Hawaii, I felt uncomfortable because I saw so many Asian faces. I wasn't used to that. But the world has changed. And so where we are now at Highline, we have probably, was it 60%? 70% now, 70% students of color, which is more, what's that, 10,000% change. So this is a poem about Bruce Lee, but it turns into something else. Though dancing needs a master, I had none. Quote by Theodore Redke. Bruce Lee, cha-cha-cha. Bruce Lee, seafood, cha-cha, cha-cha. Kung Fu, dancing master. Punch to the stomach, back fist to the temple, side kick to the Green Hornet? Buzzing across Seattle, 1962. You carry your girl with a nail in her foot from the garbage dump 347 steps like she was a sack of long-grain precious pearl rice, loving her in and out of her sack. Cha-cha. Smooth as wonton, slipping out of soup down Chinatown, the dragon enters across the ceiling of Little 3 Grand, dazzles waiters with 3 pecks to the eyes and 1 on the forehead for good measure, and orders Hoyanga Yok Fan, meaning crazy cow on rice, if you're tone deaf, or cow covered with oyster sauce on fan, if you can sing it on key. Even Charlie Fleetfoot Halfback Mitchell was slower than a muddy field across the cross-eyed fingertips of Brucey Littlelong, loud say, forgive our decay, and Wing Chun, our chin, seeing us cha-cha and double triple kick across the UW campus, yin-yang, kung fu, down. Little boys and old men today say, mixed les souvent, Ali may be the greatest. But in my head, you are who you always have been. Foolish star grasper, leaping across ceilings in a single bound. Wolf trying to shake the house down. Tongue twisted, twister speaking English with a Chinatown palate. Low down, happy slapper, something I still see a flicker of when I watch your movies for the 5th time. There you are, faster than celluloid, more powerful than a zoom lens. And I am flying across 20 feet of bathroom in a 15-year-old movie, the same day you met head-on with Theodore the Bear Redke, who said, I'm Redke the poet and you are in my room. To which you said, I'm Brucey Kung Fu in the eyes and in your bad knees Lee, and I am using this room to teach my girl my Kung Fu kind of poetry. Shake my hand. And the next day, Big Ted said he had met you face to face, and bears was no match for dragons. Chi-sao, cha-cha-cha. I even thought I could cha-cha, but now I write this, what I call poetry to funky music. Would you believe Tower of Power? It comes from somewhere, old friend, dancing master, this dancing and fancy footing around the stage, which begs the question, where have you all gone? The Little 3 Grand never sounded like the Chinatown restaurant it no longer is. Ted Redke, who needed no master to fill the skies with a galaxy of poems, is drowned in a swimming pool after playing to a crowd who watched him fall all day into the pool crying, "Save me, save me." And the star you reached for has fallen in your lap, coursed like fire through your veins, and exploded like a cherry bomb in your brains. But listen, Chinatown's dancing, Brucey, to the crack of your forearms on the teak, scarecrow, mannequin skin, because you said Chinese is not pigtails. And they have followed your winding tale from San Francisco to LA to Hong Kong, seen you become a meteor, little dragon, dragging everyone out of the restaurants, their back alley card rooms, their mahjong brick hotel rooms, because you had lotus petal touch, praying mantis serenity, more lives than a cat, and spent them all proving you was a man, when no one doubted you was just like them, in spite of dragon claws, scales, fire breath. So they are stepping not to the cha-cha, or the boogaloo, or the waltz, the foxtrot, or the polka. They're jamming in the streets from the Jap towns and Chinatowns, the refugee towns and migrant towns, a winding tale of immigrants who are the American dream. They are the muscle and arteries, the scale and claws, the dream and nightmare of another dragon, its tail careening blindly, banging and clangling down your street and mine.